The series begins with a raid on the Miller family home where Detective Inspector Luke and the rest of his team quickly head to little Jamie's room. The whole family screams in panic but obeys the police. Once inside the room, Luke explains to Jamie that he is being detained on suspicion of murder. Jamie, frightened, shouts that he didn't do anything, but he still follows Luke's instructions while the rest of the police search the entire house for evidence. After his arrest, the boy is taken to the police van. Although the family insists it's all a misunderstanding, since their 13-year-old son is incapable of harming anyone. Detective Constable Frank tells them to follow him to the police station. Jamie's father, Eddie, yells at his son not to say anything and assures him that everything will be fine. On the way, Jamie keeps crying and repeatedly insists that he hasn't done anything. Luke warns him that it's better to remain silent, as anything he says from that moment on could be used against him. The inspector then introduces him to Derek, the responsible adult assigned to accompany him throughout the process. Derek will be with him during any case proceedings. However, Luke explains that once they arrive at the custody center, they can request that one of Jamie's parents replace him. Once there, Jamie expresses that he wants his father, Eddie, to be his responsible adult. He is then given several instructions that he must follow, although he is visibly shaken by the situation, especially when he sees his family arrive. Unfortunately, he cannot approach them and is instead taken to a cell. Luke then approaches the Millers and informs them that they will be assigned a public defender. He also tells them that Jamie has chosen Eddie as his guardian during the trial, so Eddie is taken to his son and they begin medical tests. During this, Jamie keeps repeating that he is innocent, while his father tries to reassure him by saying that he believes him. Upon leaving the cell, a public defender named Paul introduces himself to the Millers. He explains that he will meet with the investigators to obtain all the details about what happened. However, the inspectors only provide an overview, arguing that the rest of the information will be relevant during the interrogation. Paul and Eddie then return to the holding area, where Jamie undergoes another medical checkup, including a body search to ensure he is not hiding anything. At that point, Eddie strongly opposes his son being touched, but since Jamie is accused of a felony, the examination is mandatory. To calm his father, Jamie complies with the procedure and they finally complete the review. Afterward, father, son, and lawyer meet, and Paul explains to Jamie how he should respond during the interrogation. He advises him to answer only questions related to the crime without adding any unnecessary comments. They practice for a few moments. However, when Paul steps out for a moment, Eddie, shaken, asks his son if he really did it. Jamie flatly replies that he did not. Then the official interrogation begins. The inspectors ask Jamie what he did and who he was with last night. Following Paul's advice, Jamie remains careful with his responses. So, the inspectors shift the focus to his high school friends, Ryan and Tommy. The boy denies having been with them that night. They then show him a photo of one of his classmates, Katie, and ask what kind of relationship he had with her. At that moment, Luke reveals that they found Katie's lifeless body. She was bludgeoned 7 times, and asks Jamie if he was responsible. Jamie answers no, but suddenly, the inspector presents footage from street cameras. The recordings show Jamie spending the night with his friends. When they leave, he is clearly seen following Katie into a parking lot. There, they have an argument, and finally, Jamie is caught on camera committing the crime. Upon discovering the truth, the boy cries inconsolably, and the inspectors decide to stop the interrogation. Left alone, Eddie breaks down in tears, asking why he did it. However, Jamie continues to deny being responsible. 3 days later, the inspectors go to the school to continue their investigation. They meet Tommy and Ryan, Jamie's best friends, who, distressed upon seeing them, question whether their friend is really a criminal. Meanwhile, Luke speaks with Katie's best friend Jade, who is furious with the detectives. She believes they already have more than enough evidence to prove Jamie is the culprit. However, the investigators want to understand why he did it. Jade, still upset, insists that her friend was a good person and storms off, insulting them. The inspectors then go to several classrooms, explaining that anyone with relevant information should contact them. They leave their phone numbers with the teachers. Luke then comments that the murder weapon must be somewhere in the school, as Jamie had been there that same night. While they search another classroom for clues, the fire alarm suddenly goes off. The entire school is evacuated to the courtyard, where Jade attacks Ryan and beats him up, leading to him being taken to the infirmary. There, the inspectors decide to interrogate Ryan, asking if he knows why Jamie would have wanted to harm Katie and whether he knows anything about the knife. However, Ryan becomes very nervous and upset and abruptly leaves. After that, we meet Adam, Inspector Luke's son, who explains that he can help him understand the situation. Adam mentions that Jamie was being harassed by Katie and other classmates through comments on Instagram. They left an emoji referring to Jamie as an incel, implying that he would never have intimate relationships with anyone in his entire life. Upon discovering that the young man was being bullied, the inspectors head back to question Ryan. However, when they ask him to step out of the classroom, the boy panics and escapes through the window. Luke has no choice but to chase him, and after a while he finally manages to catch him. Furious, he demands to know if Ryan was the one who gave the knife to Jamie. Unable to handle the pressure any longer, Ryan breaks down and confesses that the weapon was his, but he doesn't know where it is. Faced with this, the inspectors arrest him for being an accessory to the crime. Luke then asks Frank to book him and formally charge Jamie, as they now have all the evidence they need for the case. At this point, we fast forward 7 months after the arrest. A psychologist is visiting the juvenile correctional facility. She has conducted several sessions with Jamie to assess his mental health and is required to prepare a detailed report on him for the trial. However, she still has no definitive conclusion, so she holds another session. A good rapport between them is observed. The psychologist then asks Jamie about his family, particularly about his father, Eddie. She wonders if Eddie treats his son well. This question begins to unsettle Jamie, who becomes visibly upset. He replies that his father is good and insists that these questions have nothing to do with his case. At that moment, Jamie becomes curious about what the psychologist is writing about him, but she explains that she cannot reveal it, as that information is only for the court. So he tells her that he needs to continue talking to her so she can understand the reasons behind his action. Jamie insists that his father is a good man who has never laid a hand on him, though he admits that Eddie is very strict. However, when the psychologist continues to press with her questions, Jamie becomes enraged. He repeatedly insists that he did not commit the crime and demands to go home. Seeing his emotional state, the psychologist decides to leave the room to give him time to calm down. On returning, she explains to Jamie that she is not there to force a confession, only to understand everything he has gone through. Jamie then apologizes for his behavior, and the woman continues by asking if he would like to have a girlfriend and about his personal life. At that moment, the boy confesses to having seen naked photos of 2 of his classmates, one of them being Katie, that were shared throughout the school. He explains that he had a natural physical reaction upon seeing the images, but clarifies that he was not attracted to Katie. However, after a series of questions, Jamie once again becomes enraged and aggressive. Once he finally calms down, the psychologist asks him about the comments Katie left on his social media. Jamie explains that those comments started when he asked Katie out. Since the leaked photos had made her a target of mockery, she rejected him, saying that she wasn't that desperate. She then began to make fun of him and incited others to do the same. After this revelation, the psychologist informs Jamie that this will be his last session. This deeply upsets him, and he has to be forcibly removed from the room while desperately ordering her not to reveal what happened to the judge. 13 months later, the Miller family is celebrating Eddie's birthday, trying to return to a sense of normalcy. However, their attempt is interrupted when they discover an insult written on their truck. Furious, Eddie searches for something to erase it, while his wife suggests that they move before the trial. However, he refuses, arguing that it wouldn't change anything. So the whole family heads to a hardware store to buy supplies to remove the graffiti. While there, a store clerk recognizes Eddie and, in an uncomfortable moment, tells him that he supports his son. Eddie, feeling uneasy, gets the paint and leaves. However, outside, he encounters the boys responsible for vandalizing his truck. Enraged, he confronts one of them and, upon returning to the parking lot, throws the paint over the graffiti. On the way home, they receive a call from Jamie at the correctional facility. He congratulates his father on his birthday and then makes a shocking announcement. He has decided to change his plea and plead guilty. This leaves the entire family in disbelief. Upon arriving home, the Millers begin to question whether they were good parents. Lisa tries to console them, assuring them that it's not their fault and insisting that moving away won't change anything, as the truth will eventually come out. Finally, Eddie enters Jamie's room and breaks down in tears, feeling immense guilt for not being able to do anything to help his son. Thanks for watching. Keep supporting this channel and don't forget to comment below and let me know what else movie or series you want me to recap next.